Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Hello, Catholic pilgrims. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining me for our third day in reading St. Faustina's diary. We're going to get right into it because I'm going to be reading quite a bit today because of the way it flows. So today, if you're following along in your book, we're still in the second section, and we're going to be reading 7 through 11. And now this is going back in time from what we read yesterday. So now we're in August 1st, 1925, and she's entered into the convent. So this is the first part of her talking about how that came to be. So this is really just her telling us the things that came into effect that led her into the convent. So let's get started. From the age of 7, I experienced the definite call of God, the grace of a vocation to the religious life. It was in the 7th year of my life that for the first time I heard God's voice in my soul. That is, an invitation to a more perfect life. But I was not always obedient to the call of grace. I came across no one who would have explained these things to me. The 18th year of my life, an earnest appeal to my parents for permission to enter the convent. My parents' flat refusal. After this refusal, I turned myself over to the vain things of life, paying no attention to the call of grace, although my soul found no satisfaction in any of these things. The incessant call of grace caused me much anguish. I tried, however, to stifle it with amusements. Interiorly, I shunned God, turning with all my heart to creatures. However, God's grace won out in my soul. Once, I was at a dance, probably in Lodz, with one of my sisters. While everyone was having a good time, my soul was experiencing deep torments. As I began to dance, I suddenly saw Jesus at my side. Jesus, racked with pain, stripped of his clothing, all covered with wounds, who spoke these words to me. "How long shall I put up with you, and how long will you keep putting me off?" At that moment, the charming music stopped, and the company I was with vanished from my sight. There remained Jesus and I. I took a seat by my dear sister, pretending to have a headache in order to cover up what took place in my soul. After a while, I slipped out unnoticed, leaving my sister and all my companions behind, and made my way to the cathedral of St. Stanislas Kostka. It was almost twilight. There were only a few people in the cathedral. Paying no attention to what was happening around me, I fell prostrate before the Blessed Sacrament and begged the Lord to be good enough to give me to understand what I should do next. Then I heard these words, "Go at once to Warsaw. You will enter a convent there." I rose from prayer, came home, and took care of things that needed to be settled. As best I could, I confided to my sister what took place within my soul. I told her to say goodbye to our parents, and thus, in my one dress, with no other belongings, I arrived in Warsaw. When I got off the train and saw that all were going their separate ways, I was overcome with fear. What am I to do? To whom should I turn, as I know no one? So I said to the Mother of God, "Mary, lead me, guide me." Immediately I heard these words within me, telling me to leave the town and go to a certain nearby village where I would find a safe lodging for the night. I did so and found, in fact, that everything was just as the Mother of God told me. All right. It's always so interesting to get a sneak peek into people's thoughts and their interior thoughts. We don't often get to read other people's diaries. That's why, things like Anne Frank's diary, the Jewish girl who was hiding in an attic, is so interesting to us because we're getting just the nitty gritty, deep down interior thoughts that are going on in somebody's life. I can so relate to what she's talking about here. Not that, Jesus called me out and told me I was going to have a vocation in a religious life, but just, she's going along and she feels pulled in a certain way. And nobody else around her seems to be doing, paying attention to a call like that. There's nobody around to explain anything to her about the religious life. She feels this call. She asks her parents. They're like, no way. And so she kind of feels defeated. And so she just kind of quits. But still there's this longing. And she knows she's not on the right path, but she's just, like she says, she stifles it. And she's like, I'm just going to ignore this, and I'll ignore it by making lots of noise in my life. And she even says, I stifled it with amusements. And it just doesn't work. It just really doesn't work. And I know this personally. I think all of us have felt this. Like, we're pulled to do something, even if we're like pulled to be more Catholic, or like myself, I'm a convert to the Catholic faith. And I really tried to buck against that for a long time because, for so long I had thought that the Catholic Church was just a crazy cult and there was nothing good to be found there, except for my husband, who was a cradle Catholic. But I really wanted to block out the noise that I needed to convert with other things. And even before converting, back when I was, a Christian in name only, I was trying to stuff my life with all kinds of amusements, and she calls them creatures. I can only assume that she means like maybe dating people, and for her that would be going against the path that she felt called to, because she was called to the religious life. But she's trying to stuff down that voice, and it's just not working. And so she's at this dance. And, there's nothing wrong with a dance, but she's there and she's not really enjoying it. Everybody else is enjoying it. There's dancing, there's fun, there's friends, and she's just struggling inside. And she's trying to play the part like, oh, I'm having a good time, but she's just not having it. And then Christ is there in front of her. This is a big reason why she's a mystic, okay? Because she sees the Lord. She clearly hears his voice telling her to do things. And, I love how frank Jesus is. He's like, how long am I going to put up with you? How long am I going to put up with you not listening to what I want you to do? You're not following my will. And how long are you going to put me off? Really? And, the Lord is patient with us. He really is. But at some point he has to jar us out of our stupor and get real with us. Like, how long are you going to put me off? Because this isn't making you happy. If you come this way, there's a lot of things I'm going to show you and a lot of blessings I can give to you. And, and she's like, at that moment, she's like, it's just her and Christ. Everything else is melted away. And it's just her and Jesus. And so she leaves and she runs to a church. God, can you picture it in your mind? It's late in the evening, a beautiful church in Poland. She goes in. There's just a few people in there, probably candlelight. And she goes and just lays out flat in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? Tell me what I'm supposed to do. And how many of us Christians have said that? What am I supposed to do? Just tell me. And her being a mystic, kind of jealous of her, she literally gets told, go to Warsaw. There's a convent there that I want you to enter. And so she does it. That's what she does. She goes home, she packs her bags, what few small things she has, the only clothes she has on, and she goes. And this is the thing about following God's will. It's never easy. She gets to Warsaw, she's looking around, she doesn't know a soul, she barely has anything, she doesn't really know where she's supposed to go, and she's kind of overwhelmed. She's like, what in the world am I supposed to do? What have I gotten myself into? And I love her honesty about that, because we've all felt that way. We've all felt that way. And so what does she do? She turns to prayer. she talks to Mary. Mary, tell me what I'm supposed to do. That's what you want when you feel lost. You want your mother. When you're lost and confused and feel very alone. What do you want? You want your mom. And so she calls on Mary. So I just find this whole scene just truly relatable on so many levels. And I think that's what we should ponder and think about today is, do you have a specific time in your life when God really called you? Like I was telling you, I really got called to the Catholic Church, and I tried to buck against that. And I was finally, it was the Eucharist that was like, it's kind of like her, are you seriously going to keep putting me off? You want to receive this. What are you doing? And I finally just knew I got to become Catholic. So just reflect on that. Think about this scene. I mean, it's so real, it's so human. That's what I love about it. She's just sharing and bearing her soul, and we're getting a glimpse into that. So that's what I'd leave you with today, is to think about those times in your life when God has called you, and think about, what would you write in your diary? Did you buck against him? Did you go headlong into it? How did you feel? It probably wasn't easy. It's never easy when we finally surrendered to God. So that's all for today, Catholic pilgrims. Until we talk tomorrow, I encourage you to live the faith boldly and travel well.